Thanks for hopping on, Emily. Again, we're excited to chat with you about youth sports and dive in your background.
Yeah, totally. It's an honor. Thanks for having me, really.
Off the bat, if you just want to give an intro about yourself, I know you're a sports mom, how many kids you have, favorite sports, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I have three kids. I have a 14-year-old who's about to go into high school, Maddox. I have a daughter, Marley. She's 10, and we just had a babe a year ago, May 12th, little Miles. So, yep.
Oh,
Yep,
congrats.
favorite
Congratulations.
sport. I mean, I grew up playing softball, so we're sideline at baseball, have been with our oldest for as long as he's been of the age to play. So that is definitely like we say our house comes alive, in the spring and summer when the snow's gone. I'm here in Minnesota, so when the snow's gone and boy, you get that first heat and that first practice in rain, practice with a little snow on the field, we're ready. We come
That's
alive.
really nice.
Yeah.
And you said you played
Yeah.
softball growing up. How long did you play for? Like
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
elementary, middle, high school? How
Yeah,
far did
I
you go?
mean, I'm sure we'll get to this, but I was a three-sport athlete, which is getting really hard to do for our kids, but I was just obsessed with sports as a kid. And so, but my sport of choice was softball. I played all the way through college. I was fortunate enough to play beyond college too. My husband and I, after we were married, we played overseas in Switzerland for their professional level. Little caveat on that though, it's a pretty underdeveloped sport, and so they hire Americans to come over and not just play but also develop and coach. And so we did that really soon after we got married at the whopping age of 24. I mean, it feels like a different lifetime ago, but it was cool. It was really fun.
Wait, I gotta ask, you guys played, so did you meet and then went over there together as a part of the program, or did you guys meet in the program? How did that work?
Yeah, great, great question. No, we knew each other ahead of time. My husband played baseball all the way through college as well. And he got asked to play overseas in Switzerland right out of college. And then 2 weeks later or something like that, he went and played in the Braves organization for what he calls a summer. So
Okay.
he left that program in Switzerland to go, try his stint with the Braves. And then, like a year or two later, after we had been dating, engaged, and then we were engaged when we went over there and then came back for the summer and then we were married. So yeah, we were already together when we went. But they called him and said, "Hey, do you want to come back and play?" And he's like, "Well, I'm engaged now, but she's also a softball player, athlete." So they hired both of us. So that's
Oh
how we
wow.
got there.
So you got,
Yeah,
okay.
it's
I
pretty
was hard to
cool.
tell from your Instagram page. I figured you were an athlete because even before the interview, Matt and I were looking through your videos. That one spiral you threw to your
Mhm.
son was insanely tight. I was like, she's obviously an athlete and has like played sports before.
That's very kind of you. The funny thing is that, like, my son, he's got that hunger for sports too. And so he's like, the first football I threw maybe 10 years ago to him, I mean, he just was like, "You can't throw it like that." So he's like, "You have to throw me a spiral." And so if I want to play with my kids, especially that kid, he's like, "I'm going to show you how to do it." So, but my husband always does, he does say that when we're out on the side yard, he's like, his favorite thing is to watch me run routes or throw a ball. So I'm into that. I'm into that. I'm ready.
Okay, so you've had a good sports career. You had one, before you had kids. Then you had kids, and your older son loves every sport. I guess going back into his like early youth sports days, what was it like just getting into sports? Did you guys roll him out on teams at like two or three, or did you just
Mhm.
do a lot of like at home practice, try to keep it fun? What kind of sports parents are you, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we were the type of parents that just took it, step by step. Like he's of the age that he can play t-ball. Let's go watch him play t-ball. I mean, we sat at the t-ball, sideline for 3 years before he was old enough to play. You just take all, specifically with baseball, then it's coach pitch, or with football, it's flag football, and Maddox was able to, I remember after COVID hit, he was able to play tackle football, and we kind of told him like, yeah, you'll do one more year of flag football with COVID, all that stuff. And so we kind of, we didn't like push him to do tackle right away. But I don't know, we've just taken it with the age group, and I mean, we've been playing. I mean, we have videos of Maddox. Is like he's the kind of kid that was born with the ball in his hand. We've got a video that is just like one of our most prized possessions of him throwing wiffle balls at 2 years old to John and I, my husband and I, and we're just like trying to whale him as far as we can. And he's in a diaper. He's in a diaper, not even a shirt on. And we are just dying laughing. And he thought it was so funny every time we'd hit it. I mean, so we've got our front yard has the home plate divots on either side. And it's like, it's our front yard. Most people keep that to the backyard, but not us. We're like, those are prideful, pride moments for us to have a front yard that has some dirt there. And we've got the kids that come and play wiffle ball. I was just out there the other day. Maddox's friends have been playing wiffle ball in our front yard. It's always 2-on-2. It's Maddox and I against Brooks and Easton as two best buddies, and it's so fun. And my husband is always the one behind the camera. It's just so sweet. But and so the other day they were just the 14-year-old boys. They were just over and they're like, MGem, they call me MGem. MGem, let's go to the front yard. This 2-on-2. And I mean, how do you say no? I don't know. I can't say no to it. So, anyways, I don't know. That's what it's like. We kind of run the gamut. I mean, we take it seriously too, but boy, yeah, fun is the key. So,
And if your son's friends are calling you MGM, you're definitely the cool sports mom. So
well, that's why I'll take it. I'll take it for sure.
What was one of the bigger surprises you had when you first started coaching or being a parent, watching your kid go out there, like the feelings, the emotions? Were there surprises that you had?
Of course. I mean, you tend to think that as a former student or kid or young athlete yourself that you would keep all of the politics or all of those kinds of things like in check, like the whether it's sports politics or it's the idea that like, oh, that kid is at this facility in the off season, we should be doing that. You'd think that you'd be like, no, we're fine, but I'm surprised at how much we got to keep that stuff in check too. I mean, there's off season workout and then there's like, we're just burning our money because of the things that we're doing for our kids. And so that's a constant stream of conversation in our house, especially now as our son is getting older and closer to like pursuing sports beyond high school, which is so, I mean, it was valuable to me, it was valued to my husband, and we benefited greatly from it, and so we want to help facilitate that with our kid. But the idea that they're going pro is probably really small. And so, we're just trying to keep in check. Like, the other day, I mean, my son he is one of those, he's firstborn, really good at receiving like feedback and guidance, but he was telling us about some, showcase that he wants to go to in Florida.
Yeah.
kind of far from Minnesota.
And we're like, dude, you're 13. This was last year, eighth grade. I'm like, you're 13, dude. Like,
Yeah.
we're just not gonna do that. And, a 13-year-old boy, you've either hit your growth spurt or you haven't. There's all sorts of things you're kind of waiting on that matters in the athletic world, and so he hasn't yet. And certainly didn't a year ago. So it's just like keeping some of that stuff in check. And it's amazing how even when you have a perspective of like, we didn't have all of that when we were younger and we still had college paid for, or we still had opportunity to play beyond high school, it's still in you to go like, oh man, maybe we should do that. Or my daughter is, my husband he says that I'm the athletic one, the one that can like get on a jet ski or throw a football or get on skis, where he's like, I could squat and throw a ball really hard. He's like, I can't do much athletic beyond that. He's slow, bad knees. And our son kind of has that body type. But then here comes our daughter who's like athletic and fast and agile and knows her body really well. And yet her number one question before practice or a game is which one of my friends is going to be there. And as much as I know that personally, I can get sucked into like, come on, like, where's the hunger? Where's your like
Yeah.
desire to like elbow somebody, But I have to keep that in check because boy, she's willing to show up. She's willing to play. She's willing to, she battles the like nerves and stuff and all of that. She is like working out through the avenue of sports. Like that is so
Absolutely.
good, So she's got real high potential, but boy, she cares so much about her teammates and the people around her. And if that's her greatest asset as like an adult, that's a good thing, So, but that to answer your question, it's surprising how even though you have the background of like knowing what's true, knowing what's real, knowing what's actually going to benefit your kid or not, you get sucked in. You can easily get sucked into like, oh man, keeping up with the Joneses in that world.
What have you guys done in that realm? Have you tried anything like, it sounds like baseball is the main priority. Any facilities, any lessons, or is it really just mom and dad coaching at home for now until your son gets to a certain age, certain level?
Yeah, good question. No, we've invested for sure. I think we talk about that though with our kid, just about it being an investment. Um, like if you want to play at the college level, we're willing to invest there, knowing that there will be a return, and so we do understand that. My parents did it, his parents did it. It paid off. It doesn't have to be a full ride scholarship, but the ability to play beyond high school and even just connected to an athletic community or like a built-in group of kids when you're in college, I think is really cool. So we talk about that investment, and so yeah, we've got my son does play on a club baseball team, and usually when you play at a club level, and this wasn't the case when I remember like a few girls I played against played club softball. Now it's just kind of the norm that eventually at some age you kind of move from your city team onto clubs. So that's an investment. That is a financial investment, but usually club teams offer workouts beyond the actual field, and so he's
Yep.
improved a ton, and we do say that too. It's like if you're improving, if you're working hard, we just had to pull the reins back a little bit on what he's going to do this coming winter because this last winter we kind of said yes to a lot of different things, and he's got some injury, and so there's some like overuse of a body that's still developing, and so
Yeah.
this
Yep.
winter we're going to pull back. He's just going to go to the facility to hit. There's no strength training because we have all that stuff here at home, and throwing. I mean, it was like throwing, lifting, hitting, 4 to 5 days a week, and yeah, so we circle back on those conversations a lot. Again, we're not perfect. We've spent more money than we should have in certain areas, but part of it is living and learning, especially in this day and age with the culture of sports and student athletes.
One of the things I want to ask because it seems like you have to balance a lot of different things between different activities, and then obviously they're still in school. How has that been balancing academics with athletics? Has that been a challenge? And
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we're talking a lot about my son only just because my daughter just hasn't gotten to that level quite yet. So with Maddox, I mean, we're about to head into high school. Even this morning, he set his alarm for 6 a.m. He had film at 7, and he was kind of dragging. And I literally said, "Welcome to high school sports," where you're up super early and eventually like school's gonna start, right? And so, and with high school sports and academics, they kind of set the tone. Like if you don't come to school, you don't go to the game. If you don't turn in your work, you don't play, I mean, so some of it's like now we actually, have the have the school to kind of back up the rules, but our kid's a smart kid too. I mean, he is a little classic firstborn in that sense. So school comes somewhat naturally to him, but I think like we're right on the cusp of that. I mean, your listener, there's be people listening and watching who are way further than I am to be able to say like, just get ready. We're kind of bracing ourselves for like, what does the workload look like and feel like? But of course we have standards in our home. I mean, get your work done. Don't be late to turn stuff in. I mean, again, most of that is related to like just don't be that kid, or don't be the person the teacher's got to track down. Some of that's just like basic life skill. I mean, so much of what we're talking about too, like as I was looking through these questions, I was thinking so much of it and how we parent through sports is like you are learning failure through the avenue of sports, you're learning adversity through the avenue of sports before you get to like the boardroom, right? Or off to college on your own, or become a spouse or become a parent. I mean, it's like you're learning so much in sports that are the building block for like your future. So same with academics. It's like if you don't get your work done, one of the consequences is that you're not going to be able to play in this game that you really want to. But also, that's like a skill that you're developing to to become a functioning human adult in the workplace, too. So, and I don't know, maybe that's too deep, but we talk about that stuff, in our home. So,
What about? I mean, it sounds like you guys have come a long way, and your son's going into high school. If you guys could go back in time, what's one piece of advice you would give to parents, maybe who have kids that are just entering t-balls, starting off sports right now, but maybe 8, 10 years before where you guys are? What's the one thing you would do different if you can go back in time?
the first things that came to my mind are like really tactile, practical things. Number one, leave your phone in the car. Like try to be as engaged as possible in that 1 hour or hour and 45-minute time limit that you can. My daughter was 6 years old. I was watching her on the sideline of the soccer game and she wasn't playing. She was like rotated out at that point in her shift. And I grabbed my phone. I was on it. And across the way, she says, "Mom, get off your phone." It's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, they'll call you on it, They're watching you,
Yeah.
watch them, whether they're playing or not. And so as best as you can, again, I'm not perfect in this. You also want to take pictures or videos. I get all that, but boy, just try so hard to stay engaged as much as possible. The other thing I thought of, because it's so silly, but it's just true, bring the cooler. Pack the cooler, even if it's one game. Bring the cooler. Always have enough water. Always have the snacks. Otherwise, you just got the kid that's eating everybody else's snacks. Nobody wants that kid.
You're just useless at that point.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I waited way too long to get that right. But we always bring a cooler. Make friends with other parents. Make friends with other parents. Literally, to have this conversation, I needed to make sure that Maddox had a ride home from a parent. I mean, it's like the carpool thing is real. So make friends with other parents because your kid's gonna need a ride.
Wow.
And yeah, I think I said this earlier, but they're likely not going pro. You can totally build that into their system. We've told that to Maddox all the time. You can go pro. You can. But here's what it takes. But they're likely not. And so just keep the emotional stuff in check. It's hard. It's really, really hard. But it's just going to be the most important thing is the relationship that you maintain between you and your kid. And you're going to have moments. You're definitely have moments. I mean, my dad coached me all the way, summer ball, all the way until I graduated high school. He would send out Coach Mark and Coach Diane to the mound when I was getting real, emotional. And I always appreciated that because that just kept our relationship intact. My husband coached my son all the way now through until he's in high school now. And same thing, they've had to have the car rides home where they're saying sorry to each other, or where my husband's saying sorry, because he overreacted or he got upset, went too far with Maddox versus other kids or whatever. So I guess your ability to say sorry too, and then maybe the last thing I would say, just because it's really fresh in our lives, is continue, if you're a two-parent home, for instance, just continue to stay open in your communication with your kid about how you're spending your money. You don't have to burden them. It's not like, oh man, we're putting so much money into this. You better, it's not that. It's
Yeah.
just bringing into the reality that like this is an investment and we're going to invest as long as we see progress and potential and excitement. Um, and then, yeah, I
I
think,
like that.
yeah, maybe one more thing. If you are a parent who didn't grow up playing sports, it's really easy for me to love what my kids do because I love sports so much. If you're the parent that didn't grow up in that, and it's hard to understand, and it's hard to, I don't think you need to try to understand. I think just join your kids in loving what they love. So if you grew up not doing sports, you grew up doing lots of other things, but you've got the kid that's like obsessed about it, then I don't know, have them teach you how to throw a spiral or just love what they love. They appreciate that so much more than anything else. My son, he's quarterback, and he's got 100. I mean, I think 100 and some plays that he's learning right now, and he tells me about a lot of them. And I mean, you could be talking to me, and
Over
he's just
that.
speaking Chinese. I mean, it's just like I have no idea what he's saying, and the options, I just can't. But boy, I don't know. I do my best to just listen in and be excited what he's excited about. So, and that's something we can all do, whether we know sports or not. So.
But what's one thing you really think has helped your son untap his potential, to use our untapped key phrase? We'd love to know one thing that you feel like has really helped your son along the way.
So my son really speaks, like we have tried to speak his language. We have tried to motivate him in a way that we know he loves to be motivated. And his thing is leadership. It's like he is the kid that is, rallying the troops, whether it's like a prayer beforehand before the game or the hands in, like calling it out. So we've tried to instill that, and I really believe that speaking that language of leadership over him has 100%, it has like risen his potential. He's on a club team right now where he is the smallest kid out there. He's got great hands, but he's batting at the bottom of the lineup. All these other kids over the last year grew 6 inches plus. They're hitting the ball far. They're concerned about their exit velo, which apparently is a stat that is important, but when you're small, you can't tap into that. And we have just heard from, other, whether it's parents or the guy who runs the club, like Maddox is the galvanizer, and you can't replace that in some ways. And so we've really seen him own that position on the team and in the dugout, and for sure that has increased his potential and has given him something to like work towards. And we've seen him either this last year was his most challenging year because of the things I talked about, size and growth and all those kinds of things that eventually happen for guys or boys going from, boys to men or whatever. And that's, when you're one of the ones who's fallen behind, you take notice to that. And yet somehow speaking the language of leadership over his life and reminding him of what his role is first and foremost and how other kids see him has really given him something to drive for and work for. And that's been really cool. And I do think that it's unlocked then even in his playing and how he's improved this year. So yeah, great question.
Sounds like he'd be a great quarterback, honestly, if he's galvanizing the troops, the leadership, the mental side.
It's true. Yep. And be a good teammate. Boy, I mean, unlocking other people's potential and other people's gift. And boy, yeah, there's nothing cooler than that. So, yeah.
If there was one thing you could change about your parenting journey, having athletes, like what would be one thing that maybe from the start you would have done differently?
We knew that Maddox would be into sports for the long haul, literally from the time he was little. So, again, speaking specifically to him, um, we would have held him back a year. I think like now I say that also knowing that as an academic, he would have probably been bored in the classroom and maybe caused a lot of trouble until he got to a certain age when he could hold that into check. So athletic, I'm not making the statement that like athletics are everything. But to your question, when it pertains to athletics, we would have held him back to where he was maybe not the smallest kid, but like right in line with all the other kids. And that's specific to his age. He's very young for his grade. So there are some things that we do look back and go, man, we should have held him back a year. You can default, he's got a lot of kids. Actually, it's another thing in sports that's happening that just was never happening when I was younger. But you've got kids that like repeat a grade so that they can be bigger, taller, stronger, stand out a little bit more. We did ask him if he would ever do that. I think you can only do it up until high school. And he was just a no all along, and which is totally fine. Again, talk about keeping something in check. Totally fine. But that would be my answer. Again, athletics are not everything, but that would be specific to like our kid and our situation and how old he was and where his birthday was and all of that. And then the only other thing I would say is we spent way too much money last year. And so we've learned from that, and you can spend a lot of money. And so that's where I say just be open about your communication, be open about like what's actually true, what are their actual strengths, what are the things that they need to work on. My son did infield camp. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that he doesn't have something to learn, but his hitting is what he struggled with. And so that's what we're going to put our effort into this winter. We're not going to have him go to throwing camp. We're not going to have him go to infield camp. Again, it's not that he doesn't have progress to be made there, but when you look back on how much money we spent last year, it's like we got to put that in check. And so being willing to have that open communication, line of communication to talk about that, especially between your spouse. Again, if you're a two income and two parent household, it's so important. So that would be my
I
answer.
know we're kind of at the end here, but I also
Yeah.
like telling your son about that too. I mean, not so matter of factly like, hey, we're spending
Yeah.
5 grand on you. You better make
Yeah.
this up. But it's like, we're doing this
Yes.
for you. Mom and
Right.
dad could probably have a
Yes.
more calm weekend,
Right.
grabbing coffee, seeing our friends, and walking around town. But like, we're here spending money for you, so
That's
you
right.
might as well have fun and
Yeah. Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's not making them feel guilty. It's just having them understand that. And as a parent, like I understand, I have a very distinct picture in my head of my dad. My dad was an electrician by trade, and he would roll up in his truck, park it at the bottom of the driveway, hop out of the car in his work gear, you know, change into the coaching gear, come and sit at the table. And I just, what I remember is that. And now as a parent, I understand like, whoa, he was like turning over from work to coach, writing lineups, like making sure that kids got the right playing time. Like, I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, thank you for me. You did that for me, and you showed up for other kids. I mean, that is just so wild and so crazy. And so, again, it's like, it's not shaming your kids. It's just bringing them into like that perspective of like, this is where we're investing, and we're investing because you love it. But here's what it takes, to do that. And so they have a part to play in that for sure. And I think it's okay to challenge them there.
Honestly,
That's
this
awesome.
is
So,
the first interview
yeah.
we've done with a parent. If
Awesome.
they all go like this is going to be a major success.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being a parent and I love sports, and the two of them colliding is really one of my greatest like joys in life. So the fact that I got to come on here and talk about it is so wild. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Some of your answers were like had me thinking too of like how I don't have kids yet. Gene
Yeah.
has 2 kids, but I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's like a very good point. Like I didn't even think of that. But there's such it's just a different perspective being a parent, and I don't know
Yeah.
personally, but I from what you're
Yeah.
telling me,
We'll be learning soon.
Totally. Athletics are so, no matter how crazy they get, or the rhetoric out there is like, it's so intense. And yes, it is, it is, it is. But boy, I would not want my kids to learn some of those life skills, through almost anything other than sports. It's such an easy way for them to learn some really hard things, hard lessons. So it's a fun way. Fun, that's maybe it. Not easy. Fun way to learn some really hard things. So, anyways, that's it. That's all I got.
all right, thank you.
Well, nice to
Thanks.
meet you.